Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So today we have Chris Jansen with us, and Chris grew up in Green Bay and ended up out in Santa Ana. So Chris, it's great to have you. I'd love to kind of hear how you got into real estate, given that you came through the civil engineering world.
Yeah, Bruce, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. It's been a long journey, but just to kind of give an overview, it kind of traces back to COVID-19. A lot of people, I think, had a pivot point around that time as well. For me, I was about 5 years into my civil engineering journey at that point. So started working from home and frankly just got bored and was looking for other things to do because I was living home alone, no kids, no spouse, no pets, no wife, nothing like that. One bedroom apartment. So started reading up on stocks, investing, bonds, real estate, all the different types of investment vehicles. And first dabbled in the stock market. Quickly learned that was not for me because I got very emotionally attached to stocks and watching the charts go up and down. And when the charts went up, they just kept going up, especially during COVID, right? It was very volatile, but generally a lot of them kept going up. And I'd buy it high because I'd get FOMO, fear of missing out. And I'd buy it high. And it's like, as soon as I pulled the trigger and bought it, I kept following the stock and watching the charts. Then it started to go down and then I'd sell the stock. So it didn't last long before I listened to Warren Buffett and just threw it all in an index fund and stopped watching the charts. But but also during COVID, I bought my first property. It was a small condo in Santa Ana, and I bought it to live in, not as an investment. I'm a veteran, so I used a VA loan. I'm fortunate enough to have that, not have to put any money down. And within about a year, the thing shot up, $90,000 to $100,000 in value. So got really excited and looking, hey, what can I do with this equity? And so, then I really started looking into it, digging into it more. I had a clever idea that I would house hack. So I wanted to sell that property, use the equity to go buy like a 4-unit, live in one unit, rent out the others. However, I ended up putting in about 15 different offers and I got outbid every single time, no matter how high I put my offer price. I just, there was always a cash offer that was above it from probably institutional money, There's a lot of that out here in Southern California. So took a break from that, realized I couldn't do it on my own, and ended up meeting some friends of friends through Facebook who introduced me to a group of national investors that provide education and masterminds and things like that. And so I joined that and learned a lot more about what I could do, a lot of different strategies, and that helped kind of boost my confidence level and get my foot in the door in my first rental property.
And so where did you buy your first rental property?
So I looked at estates, and on my own, I didn't want to do that. I didn't know what I didn't know. But this group, there's a lot of people in Wisconsin where I grew up, and I have friends and family there too, for boots on the ground support. But I learned more about property management, and particularly we have a whole class on how to manage your property manager. So I watched that. I felt really confident. I had a referral who was a property manager and, vetted her and everything and went that route. So there's been some hiccups along the way, I will say that, with property management, but at the same time, it allowed me to get my foot in the door and invest out of state. So yeah, it was a duplex. I bought it off market. It was nothing too, exciting of how I found the property, but I was visiting my mom in Green Bay. And I just drove out there, looked at the property. I liked it. I put in an offer and I got accepted, and that's about it. So the first deal, I used the equity still with the condo. I just didn't sell it. I used a home equity line of credit as my
perfect. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And if anybody listening is a veteran, my friend referred me to Navy Federal. They only serve veterans, and their HELOCs, home equity line of credit, those they'll lend up to 95% loan to value, which is great. I mean,
Wow.
you might find that in a local credit union too, but it's like a 20-year draw period, 40-year total loan term, so really favorable terms. So definitely, if you're a veteran, there's some good resources out there.
Well, let's back up a minute. Where did you spend time in the military?
Yeah, I served in the Marine Corps for 4 years. So I was stationed. Well, I did boot camp in San Diego. I was stationed for most of my time in North Carolina, Camp Lejeune. So right on the beach there, about an hour north of Wilmington, North Carolina. And yeah, and did 2 tours as well to Afghanistan while I served. So
Oh, wow.
so yeah, that was 2008 to 2012. So
Well, I assume you weren't
like
doing civil engineering while you were in the military.
No, I didn't. Yeah, all the engineering came after that. So it was pretty much high school. I signed up when I was 17 and actually went to boot camp like the same month I turned 18. I had to get both parents' signatures because I signed up when I was 17, and I was really eager to go. So yeah, I went there, served till 2012, got out and moved to California right after that, and went straight into school. So
You liked San Diego, so you decided to go back and live in Santa Ana?
it was just I wanted to live in a big city, so I moved to LA first, and wanted to live in a big city. You know, wanted the nice climate that we have out here and are spoiled with. Wanted there's so many good schools in California too. It's crazy. So I thought it was a good place to try to check out. You know, while I'm single and free to kind of do what I want. And that, like, I felt it was so freeing the day I got out of the military, just looking back at the base, and you know, after 4 years of being told what to do every second of every day. So I'm like, man, I went to Florida to see my dad. I went to Wisconsin for a month or so to hang out. And then I drove with everything I owned in my little Corolla. I drove out to California, got an apartment, and started school, community college, to UCLA, to Stanford, just boom, 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 one after the next. So,
well, that's a very interesting journey. I mean, a lot of people are going through community colleges. Which one did you start out with?
yeah. Well, I'm a little crazy. I went to like 6 of them. So, yeah. Yeah, I definitely took advantage. I learned the system and I took advantage of it the best I could. So, you know, as a veteran, I had the GI Bill that was paying for my school, but it's sort of based on a time. Like, you know, if I take longer to graduate, I'm going to end up having to pay out of pocket. So I was trying to line everything up with the timeline so I didn't have to pay out of pocket for anything. So in the community college with engineering, you know, there's like 3 physics classes and like 4 or 5 math classes that are in sequence. And some schools, different schools are in a different sequence. So I would kind of bounce around to different schools so that I could take all the classes and do community college just in 2 years and then transfer. So that's what I did. So yeah, it was, you know, LA City College, Pierce College, East LA College, West LA College, Santa Monica College, and LA Trade Tech College.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That is impressive. So right now
I got to know LA. I drove all over the city. So
and that's not often fun sometimes, driving around LA.
yeah, no.
But then fortunately you got through UCLA and then you got to Stanford. So that was probably a fun place to be going to school.
Yeah. So, you know, after, I think when I just started the second year of community college, I was on the track to go to Cal State University. I was looking at CSUN in Northridge. And then I just I'm like, you know, what are the other requirements for the UCs? And I'm like, why am I selling myself short? I had a 4.0 GPA after the first year. So I'm like, why don't I go for something bigger? So, yeah, I looked at it. I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I just got to sign up for these classes and go to a few other schools, right, to make it happen and qualify. So
Wow,
I just did that and kept my grades up, stayed involved with everything, and it worked. So
that's
yeah,
fantastic. Wow. And so you
yeah,
came through Stanford, got your civil engineering, and you're now still working as a civil engineer and doing real
yes,
estate on the side, basically.
yeah. My plate is full. My plate is
Uh,
full.
yeah. So what, are you working sort of a normal 40-hour week in civil engineering and then doing real
Yeah.
estate on the side?
Yes. Yep. That's right. I looked at this the other day. I was actually talking to my mom. I was catching up with her because she still lives in Wisconsin. So it's all, I see her once or twice a year, but we talk on the phone a lot. So we were kind of looking. Uh, I'm an engineer, so I put everything in Excel. I budget every month, and I'm like, all right, I did a budget for the future of, hey, what would I need um, to replace my expenses and things. And she asked the question. She's like, I think I had mentioned that there's some folks at our company that do part time. So she asked, well, okay, say you did 20 hours a week part time, like, you know, how many more properties, how many more doors do you need to be able to just go to part time and free up half your time? And I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I could do that right now. So that was pretty freeing to know that I'm already at that point, and my goal for it keeps saying 12 months, but I guess at this point it's about 11 months now, is at the end of that 11 months to have enough income to replace all of my expenses. So I'm adding a 5 unit that I'm closing on this week, and then my plan is to add 17 more units this year to meet that goal. So
Wow. Wow.
that's where I'm
So,
at. Yeah.
so
So
how are you finding properties?
all sorts of different ways. Up to this, before this 5 unit, it's all been single family and duplexes. So like I mentioned, the first one was on market. That condo that I bought is now a rental, a cash flowing rental. That one I bought on market because that was my primary residence initially.
Right. Right.
Uh, One of them I bought off market. I actually found it through Craigslist, believe it or not. And
Wow.
that was in Wisconsin. That was a duplex. Pretty good deal on that one, and it appreciated a little bit already too. There's a single family that was through a wholesaler. Bought it in, this is Wisconsin numbers, but I bought it for $32,000.
Wow.
needed a full rehab, but yeah, but still, was able to buy it really, really low, and I used private money for that, so I didn't take out I haven't taken out a conventional loan on it. I'm going through a refinance right now to do that. Um, and then there was one other condo that I bought. It's actually in Utah, and I bought that one through a wholesaler as well. So combination of off market, on market, wholesaling, yeah, different sources. And then the 5 unit I actually found on Facebook Marketplace. It was first advertised by a wholesaler, and she was asking for too much, and I didn't budge on that. And then she ended up not finding a buyer at the price she wanted because the wholesaler adds on their tax on their fee as well. And then I saw it listed again by a real estate agent, same property. So I just reached out to them directly, and they were willing to accept my deal, the lower price that I wanted to offer. So yeah, that's the one I'm closing this Friday. But really, like moving forward, I'm looking more for multifamily, 8 units and above, so that I can hit add those 17 extra doors, with maybe one or two more deals. And that's where right now I'm I'm stretching myself, I'm growing myself, because I need to use other people's money to do that. Has to be like a partnership type of deal structure, and I haven't done anything like that. So I've taken classes on it. I've been networking like crazy, but actually running a deal with equity partners, that's a new territory for me. So it's a little bit scary, but I'm just pushing through. I have a coach who's helping me with all that as well. He owns like 3,000 units, and he does everything through syndication. So he's big scale compared to what I'm doing. But I'm like, I need to boost the confidence. So like I want to start with something like a 12 unit or a 16 unit with a few partners, and kind of see if that's, get my palate wet for that, and see if that's something I want to start scaling at and looking at bigger syndication deals.
So are you using a one property management company? I mean, well, given that you're in Wisconsin and Utah, you probably have several property management companies.
Yeah, I have one in Utah, and I have two in Wisconsin right now for different areas within the state.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you said you had a little bit of a glitch with property management. Can you give us a little clue about what downside you might look for or upside
Yeah.
you might look for?
Well, the biggest thing with that is it was a referral, and I still went through my line of questioning with her, but I wasn't very strict about it, because it was a referral and I trusted the person who referred her to me. So I would just encourage anybody, that's doing something out of state, or even locally, if you're using property management, that's fine. But that's the most important piece of the property, because they're your eyes and ears, they're your boots on the ground. They're the first ones that the tenants reach out to, and you want to make sure you can trust them 100%. So, and that they're fully qualified and all that. If you have to pay 10% instead of 8%, because it gives you the warm and fuzzies and helps you sleep at night, pay 10%. It's worth it. Don't be cheap when you're looking for property management. I would say that 100%, because there's a reason that they're cheaper. There's a reason they're cheaper. It's not, it's not because they're nice. It's not because they're just trying to be nice, right? So yeah, just keep that.
They're going to pay less attention, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, in this case, that individual was just, she was managing a lot of units and had a very small team, was growing, but just, I don't want to say anything, too bad about this person. It just didn't work out.
They were overloaded. I mean, they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so ask about those things. Hey, what types of units are you managing? Where are the units? How many units are you managing? Who's all on your team? Are you my point person? Do I have to talk to 10 other people? Because there's advantages to smaller companies too. Like if you're getting tossed around, that's another thing too that I wouldn't like. So I like the feel of a smaller company, but you want to make sure they have capacity to handle all of your units. And then if you're looking to scale and grow, you can ask about that too, and make sure that they have capacity to grow with you, and that they're not going to neglect any of your units. And I always ask just like some basic questions too about like landlord tenant laws and fair housing laws, just to make sure I know that they know what they're talking about, and that they're not just trying to fake it till they make it sort of thing. So it's always good to ask some of those, and then checking references. That's honestly one thing I really did not do with that first property manager, that I don't know if it would have made a difference or not, but I did it the second time around just to make sure. So
just for the audience sake, describe what a wholesaler is.
Oh yeah, wholesaler. The way I think about it, it's kind of like a real estate agent, but more geared toward investors. They're not licensed, or they don't have to be licensed. What they do is they're getting compensated for finding deals, for finding usually off market properties at a low price. Most of the time, not all the time, they're fixer uppers. So a lot of like fix and flip investors will use wholesalers to source their properties and get some deal flow coming in. But really, they're out there. They are finding discounted properties. They run their own numbers, and then they get the property under contract as if they are buying the property. And then once they're under contract, now they have an equitable interest in the property, so they're allowed to market the contract. And so they basically sell that contract to other investors. they assign it, and they do that for a fee. So they might sell you their contract, the purchase contract, for 10 grand, 5 grand, 20 grand, whatever it is. I mean, there's no rules. They make it up. I know one of the investors that I know in our group. I mean, he found a really good deal. I forget where it was. I think it was probably Arizona, because that's where he's out of. He made over $100,000 on one transaction doing wholesaling, which is not the norm, but just crazy to know that there can be that big of a margin on a property to get
So
that much.
how do you know if it's a wholesaler? I mean, obviously somebody's advertising a property. They can't advertise on MLS probably, so
Yeah,
they're on
yeah,
Craigslist or Facebook or someplace else. So
right.
so you probably figure they're a wholesaler if they're not on MLS, right?
Yeah, sometimes they'll advertise it, like so you can get on wholesalers. They'll have a list of investors who are interested in buying properties in their area. So you can get on their list and you can tell them your buy box, like, hey, these are the areas I'm looking in. This is the price range. I'm looking for, 1 unit or 2 units or whatever you're looking for. And then they'll send you those deals as they come. And in the description, they'll talk about, you can kind of just get a sense from the description, even, like, because they talk like an investor, like, oh, here's the purchase price, or here's the total price with the assignment fee. Here's the after repair value. We think there's this much in repairs needed, so it gives you this much margin. This might work as a cash flow deal, and here's how much cash flow we think you'll get. So the really good wholesalers that I like will give you that full rundown, and they'll say, I think this is the best use for the property. I already ran my numbers. This is what, this is the profit you're going to be getting from this deal. But there are other wholesalers too. I don't know if they just don't know how to do it, or if they're just lazy or what, but they just throw it out there and they say property for sale, this price, then that's about it. Like, they don't really give you too much information. It's like pulling teeth trying to get information. And then, so it depends. And, the one thing with wholesalers is, it's not their property. So they're kind of the middleman. If you want to, usually it's a cash offer that you have to make. Well, they already made the offer, right? They're already under contract. And
Right.
usually it's a cash offer. So it's usually a fast close, cash only. Every once in a while you can use financing, but usually it's like hard money financing or cash. And sometimes they don't even let you in the property. So
Oh, wow.
sometimes it's sight unseen. There's almost never an inspection contingency or a financing contingency. It's pretty bare bones, and it's almost always that the investor pays all of the closing costs. So to the seller, it's appealing. They get a lower price usually, but hey, you don't have to pay any agent commissions. You don't have to pay a single cent in closing costs. This is exactly what you're going to get. So hey, if you owe $50,000 on a loan, and I'm telling you I'm going to give you 70,000, you're going to actually walk away with 20,000. It's not going to get diluted with all those other fees. So that's the advantage to the seller in that case. It's just, and it's generally a faster close. But yeah, as an investor, I like to do due diligence, so and have inspections and things. But those two that were bought through wholesalers, I did an inspection on one of them. They allowed me to do it, and then the other one I didn't. But it was a newer property, and new appliances, new finishes, and everything. It was pretty turnkey. It wasn't a fix and flip or anything. So I felt pretty good about it. And it was a condo, so anything structural is the association's responsibility.
So if you're like wanting to buy a wholesale property in Green Bay, would you just like Google wholesale real estate available in Green Bay? How would you find a wholesaler in Green Bay?
I've never Googled it, so I can't say yes or no. You'd probably find some companies if you did that, because I think there's even one that advertises on TV commercials for we'll buy your property all cash as is kind of thing.
Oh yeah, right.
You probably might have seen those But
Right.
but otherwise, you talk to other investors. Hey, who do you buy your deals through? Sometimes, one of the hard money lenders that I use, he gave me, and when I first started talking to him, he gave me a big list of referrals in his first email. He's like, hey, here's a bunch of wholesalers in Green Bay. Get on their list. They'll send you deals. These are guys that constantly are sending deals my way because it helps the hard money lender because that gives them more business. So,
Interesting.
hey, if Chris is getting deals from these wholesalers, then he's bringing deals to me and I'm making money. So, lenders might have ideas and other investors. And yeah, and then, when you see things on Marketplace, Craigslist, and any sort of marketing platforms like that, you'll and even on Facebook, like in the different Facebook groups, there's wholesale groups. You can you can search for that. There's investor groups. There's even like sometimes in like the buy, sell, and trade groups on Facebook Market or just on Facebook. Sometimes you'll see wholesalers advertise in there even.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this has been incredibly interesting. I think we could talk for another couple hours, but let's stop for now, and then maybe we'll reconvene again in 3 to 6 months and see where you are with your 17 units that you're looking to try and pick up.
Definitely. Yeah, that sounds great to me.
All right. Well, let's do it. So, where can people get a hold of you if they want to invest with you?
So I have all my links on a Linktree account, and it's just the handle for that is the Flow Authority. That's my company name, the Flow Authority, like the flow of water. My Instagram is also the Flow Authority, and my Facebook, it's just Flow Authority, just Flow Authority. But you'll see all the links on the Linktree. And then I recently launched my website as well, which is just theflowauthority.com. So you can also access all that there, book calls with me, see what events we got coming up, and all that fun stuff.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right. Well, let's keep in touch. I look forward to talking to you again.
Excellent. Sounds good. Thanks, Bruce.
Talk to you soon.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.